The air in the Catharan throne room was a sterile, cold pressure, heavy with the scent of ionized metal and aged power. Queen Xavanna sat on a dais of carved star metal, her luminous, deep azure eyes fixed on the display screens detailing the terms of the Synaptic Arena challenge. She was an image of severe perfection, her deep bronze skin flawless, her long, pale platinum hair flowing over her shoulders like liquid metal. She wore ceremonial gold armor that emphasized her formidable presence. Xavanna spoke not in volumes, but in perfectly weighted silences, and the current silence was deafening, amplified by the rigid posture of the hundreds of Catharan nobles who filled the hall. She finally directed a gesture toward the massive, charcoal-skinned warrior standing at attention by her side. "This is Vorak, the first sword of the Hegemony." Her voice resonated, a low, controlled sonic wave that demanded obedience. "His will is the foundation of our stability. He is the standard against which all contenders must be measured in the Synaptic Arena." The arena challenge was a political maneuver. Xavanna, required to marry for a critical alliance with the Vydor Concord, had invoked the ancient champion of will tradition. By demanding that any consort defeat her first sword in the neural simulator, a feat of impossible mental endurance and cold logic, she intended to secure a graceful rejection of the Vydor prince. A single human figure stood near the periphery, a forgotten cog in the diplomatic machinery. Logan, a logistics specialist attached to the minimal human Commonwealth delegation, felt the crushing weight of the Catharan court's arrogance. Vorak stepped forward, his massive hand resting on a ceremonial energy blade, the very embodiment of Catharan focus. The screens flashed, detailing Vorak's victories, mental battles of pure calculation that had left previous alien champions neurologically broken. "The challenge is simple," Xavanna continued, her eyes sweeping the assembled nobles. "Defeat him in the deep-level neural engagement. The victor earns my hand and the political power that comes with it." Her deep azure gaze swept over the human delegation, dismissing them completely. It was that absolute contempt that detonated Logan's suppressed pride. He saw the cold, perfect trap Xavanna had set. He saw the rigid predictability of their entire culture. Logan took a deep, steadying breath, and his voice cut through the stillness like a shot. "I accept the challenge," he said. A wave of palpable, icy shock swept the chamber. Xavanna's perfect composure fractured. Her hand twitched against the bronze armrest of the throne. She stared at him, her eyes widening slightly, a flicker of genuine surprise breaking the mask of the sovereign. "You are a logistics attaché, human. You have no status to claim this challenge." "My will is my own, Your Majesty," Logan countered, walking into the open space before the dais. His gray-blue eyes locked directly with her teal gaze. He did not bow. "I volunteer myself under the ancient clause of unforeseen champion accession. I don't need acknowledgement. I only need a fighting chance." He gave her a slight, challenging smile that was purely, recklessly human. "I will beat him, Queen Xavanna, and I will earn your hand." The hall erupted in murmurs. Xavanna held up a hand, and the silence crashed back down. Her gaze now held a dangerous, consuming interest. She studied his lean, unremarkable frame and the sheer audacity of his stance. She pointed a slender, armored finger at Vorak.
"Beat him, human," she commanded. "The declaration official, irrevocable, and laced with terrifying amusement, and you earn my hand." Logan's immediate transfer was a blur, rushing him past his furious delegation chief and into the clinical heart of the Hegemony's medical complex. In the stark white bioscan chamber, he was directed onto a humming platform by the chief technician, Krell, a blocky Catharan with a flat voice. "The Synaptic Arena requires absolute physical and neural baseline integrity," Krell stated, attaching sensors to Logan's temples and spine. "Your species is an anomaly. We must account for the high percentage of emotional latency. The door slid open, and Xavanna entered, dismissing Krell. She approached the platform, her gold and bronze robes rustling. She wore no armor now, radiating pure, unassailable authority. I required a primary assessment of the variable, Xavanna stated, her deep azure eyes fixed on his. Your heart rate is elevated. Your cortisol levels are erratic, and your brain activity shows non-essential cognitive processes. You are afraid, yet you volunteered. Logically, your action is self-destructive. Logan opened his eyes. The screen next to them showed a chaotic swirl of colors representing his mind. We call that courage, Your Majesty. It's the ability to act despite the fear. Your warrior Vorak knows no fear. He only knows computation. That means he's predictable. Xavanna leaned closer, her perfect bronze face hovering above his, her pale platinum hair draped near his shoulder. Fear is inefficient. The unpredictable variable is what concerns me. Her eyes narrowed as she studied the chaotic data. Your physical profile is low. What is the source of this endurance? It's a furnace of emotional stubbornness, Logan whispered, hyper-aware of her proximity. Humans don't endure by being strong. We endure by refusing to stop, even when the logic says we should be broken. She raised one slender, silver-tipped finger and traced the line of a sensor near his clavicle. Her touch was cold, feather-light, yet sparked a visceral reaction. A highly volatile energy source, she murmured, her deep azure eyes dropping to the pulse point in her neck. Dangerous to both the host and the environment. I can handle my volatility, Logan said, his voice dropping an octave, his breath catching as she leaned down. The scent of ozone and something subtly floral filled his senses. I will be the judge of that, human, Xavanna countered, a powerful assertion that was both threat and promise. For the duration of this contest, your volatility is my only chance to avoid an undesirable political outcome, and I will require full control over your processes. Her teal eyes flashed. You have introduced chaos, Logan. Now I must understand it. The calibration chamber was a cocoon of obsidian black composite. Xavanna and Logan were seated in facing neural synchronization chairs. She wore a simple circlet over her pale platinum hair. He wore a similar device. We must refine the interface. Your brain is a disaster of competing signals. Krell's analysis predicts total neural collapse within 42 seconds of deep link exposure. That is deeply invasive, Your Majesty. It's naked, Logan objected, recognizing the profound intimacy. Xavanna's lips curved into the slightest, dangerous smile. Naked minds. You offered your will. Now allow me to access the source of that will. She activated the link. The impact was an overwhelming, visceral sensory experience. Logan felt his individual thoughts instantly enveloped by an immense, structured, freezing intelligence, the pure logical focus of Xavanna's mind. And then his own mind surged back, a torrent of chaotic, vivid, unbidden data. The sharp taste of fear, the comforting memory of a childhood home, and beneath it all, a deep, driving desire, the singular focus on winning, on her. Xavanna gasped, a sharp, non-Catharan sound of pure shock. Logan felt her logic circuits momentarily overwhelmed by the pure, unadulterated noise of human passion. He felt her immediate, powerful mental rejection, a freezing wall attempting to push him out, but his naturally messy mind held firm. Your baseline. Xavanna transmitted directly, the mental projection laced with incredulity. It contains joy mixed with the calculus of assassination? You prioritize a single memory of a sunset over the tactical calculation of the Hegemony's fleet movements? It's called context, Queen Xavanna, Logan shot back mentally, allowing her to feel the immense, grounded strength of his human conviction. The sunset is why the fleet matters. The emotion is the fuel. He felt her mind prodding him, not violently, but with the focused, insistent curiosity of a scientist confronting a paradigm shift. Logan centered his thoughts, focusing his will not on fighting, but on sharing his ambition. He allowed the image of her, imperious and desirable, to become the core focus of his mental space. Xavanna's entire body tensed. A deeper bronze flush rose beneath her perfect skin. She broke the link instantly, her hand slamming onto the console. Unacceptable volatility, she hissed, her breath coming in shallow bursts. She stood, her deep azure eyes blazing with a dangerous mix of fury and intense, forbidden interest. Your mind is a primal forge, Logan. I need to see if your chaos is a weapon or simply a flaw. We will commence with the minor simulation early.
The arena observation deck was tense. Jarrell, the High Council member, watched Logan enter the central platform with undisguised contempt. "The human will fail the second phase, Your Majesty," Jarrell stated, addressing Xavanna, who was connected to the master feed. "His computational speed is negligible. He will prioritize a redundant tactical flank, sacrificing essential data for a minor position." Xavanna ignored him, her teal eyes fixed on the display, monitoring Logan's neurological response in real time. She had seen the raw, compelling data of his mind, and she sensed Jarrell was dangerously wrong. The simulation began, a planetary defense scenario coordinating 3 frigates against 4 Vydor pirate vessels. Logan's opponent, the Catharan subroutine Tyrak, adhered to pure logic. Sacrifice the outermost frigate to save the core asset. Logan executed a series of seemingly reckless maneuvers. He used his outermost frigate, Fidelity, not to defend, but to draw the Vydor attack away from the main depot's path. Tyrak condemned this as a waste of resources. "He is expending the frigate needlessly," Jarrell spat. "This emotional attachment is precisely the weakness we predicted." Logan then ordered Fidelity to hold position long after the tactical window had closed, ensuring the simulated commander's destruction. He didn't use the sacrifice to save the depot directly. He used the signal of the frigate's destruction, the sudden, massive disruption in the Vydor's tactical expectation, to unleash a devastating, pre-calculated cross-axis volley from his 2 remaining frigates, wiping out the entire Vydor force. Tyrak's subroutine, unable to process the deliberate sacrifice of a resource for an emotional shockwave, froze for 0.7 seconds, just enough time for Logan to win the simulation. His action had been coded in a massive surge of pure, focused grief and resolve channeled into revenge. The observation deck fell silent. That is not logic," Jarrell stammered. "It is an irrational expenditure justified by a subjective emotional response." "It is a victory, advisor," Xavanna countered, her voice dangerously soft. She deactivated the master link, her deep azure eyes gleaming with hungry comprehension. Logan's chaos was a profound, adaptive advantage. She turned to Jarrell, the political implications coalescing. "Jarrell," she whispered, The Vydor alliance requires me to lose in a way that validates your conservative strategy. The human has shattered your cage. She realized Jarell's faction was attempting to corner her. The human is my asset. Prepare my private chambers. I require an immediate, secure debriefing with the champion. Logan, still wearing his light combat suit, the neural fatigue clinging to him, was brought to the Queen's private chambers, a study in dark metal and flowing textiles. Xavanna was waiting, alone. You risked the core objective to avenge a subroutine, Xavanna stated, pouring 2 glasses of iridescent liquid. Take the glass. Logan took the glass. It was a calculated risk that relied on an unquantifiable variable, the Vydor's expectation of predictable Catharan logic. The surprise was the key. And I don't abandon my people, even in a simulation. Xavanna studied his face. You are more dangerous than I estimated. She took a step closer, placing her cool bronze horn flat on his chest, right over his rapid heartbeat. Jarell and his faction are watching. If you fail the next stage, they will seize control of the succession. Vorak is a wall of pure focus. To defeat him, your will must be utterly unified, utterly singular. I need access, Logan. All of it. Access to what? He asked, his voice low and tight. The source of your desire, the root of your refusal to break, Xavanna whispered, her pale platinum hair brushing his shoulder. I need to share the fire you carry. It's the only way to shield your neural link from Vorak's pure, crushing willpower. She led him to a wide platform covered in soft, dark material. She lay down first, her movements fluid and deliberate, and motioned for him to join her. This will be a deeper synchronization than before. No protocols, no Krell. Only the 2 of us linked by will. You will feel me, Logan. Every intention, every memory, every constraint I have lived under. He lay beside her, shoulder to shoulder. She reached up and reactivated her neural crown. He did the same. The connection was total. Logan felt the immense pressure of centuries of Catharan duty, the stifling logic, and her hunger, not for power, but for release. Simultaneously, Xavanna was drowning in the sheer, overwhelming warmth of his human mind, the fierce need for touch, the reckless courage, and the pure, unadulterated sensation of wanting her. She shifted, pressing her body against his, driven by a need that was no longer intellectual, but primal. He felt her mental image of him a dangerous, irrational fire, and realized she was feeding his desire back to him. Focus, human, Xavanna mentally transmitted, a fiery command inside his skull. Burn for the victory. Burn for the consequence. Logan wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close, letting his will unify with the singular, burning goal to win the right to break through her icy facade. Their mutual rising desire became the ultimate neural shield. Logan and Xavanna were in the observation room, watching Vorak's training demonstration, a complex, 3-dimensional energy grid defense. Vorak, seated in his chair, executed the drill with inhuman speed and cold, pure logic. His mental activity on the screen was a perfect laser beam of blue light. He is flawless, Logan murmured, gripping the railing. Flawless and predictable, Xavanna countered, though her voice held tension. His will is a concrete wall. If you attempt any standard psychological manipulation, he will shatter your link instantly. Vorak completed the simulation in 0.08 seconds, faster than the Hegemony's top-tier quantum computer. The demonstration was terrifyingly perfect. He asserts absolute, logical dominance, Xavanna said, turning to Logan. You must find a flaw. I will use empathy, Logan insisted. Vorak is Catharan. He must have a history, a trauma, something that forged this rigid perfection. I need to know his emotional scar. The first sword's history is state classified. It is irrelevant. A tool built from a living being, Logan insisted, taking a slow step towards her. I saw the shadow in your mind, Xavanna. Every logical being carries an emotional scar. I need to know his. Xavanna stared at him, his use of her given name a startling intimacy. She remembered the taste of his chaotic freedom. She wanted him to win with this messy primal weapon. Return to your quarters, human, Xavanna commanded, the edge of fury masking determination. I will grant you access to the Hegemony's archive of the silent years, a period of history so traumatic it was erased from public memory. If there is a scar, it is there. If you cannot find it, you will lose. The final arena challenge is in 12 hours. The final challenge was the reconstruction of the collapse of the Sargonid Empire, a galactic-scale exercise in despair and decisive action. Logan and Vorak were seated in the arena, the massive neural arrays humming. Vorak commanded the primary military fleet, executing a holding action with brutal mathematical efficiency. He was cold, simple, and overwhelmingly effective. Logan, commanding the dwindling refugee fleet, made a series of baffling, illogical decisions. He is ceding territory. He is retreating into the Vydor's predetermined kill zone, Jarrell cried in the observation room. Logan deliberately gave up the crucial supply cache and ordered his vessels to retreat into the Alaris Nebula, the historical site where the Catharan people had suffered their greatest, most shameful loss, the deliberate abandonment of a vast civilian fleet for political expediency during the silent years. Vorak won the tactical battle, but the enemy's secondary objective, the annihilation of the refugee fleet, was succeeding. Vorak was winning according to Catharan logic, but failing the true test of leadership. At the Alaris Nebula, Logan
launched his counterattack, a weaponized memory. He didn't fight Vorak's logic. He overwhelmed it with the sheer, unbearable weight of historical shame and empathy. I will not repeat the mistake of Alaris, Logan projected into the shared neural space. The people matter more than the algorithm. You choose logic, I choose survival. He forced the memory of the abandoned fleet, the cries of the civilians, the cold equations of the politicians, into Vorak's perfect, rigid mind. Logan's human will, fueled by the sheer power of his emotionally charged decision-making, was a wrecking ball against Vorak's carefully maintained facade. Vorak's flawless mental armor began to crack. In the neutral shared neural space, Logan saw the image of the first sword's mind, a citadel of focused will, begin to dissolve. The perfect blue light of Vorak's logic flickered, replaced by angry, pulsing red lines of repressed memory and emotional dissonance. Logan pressed his advantage, surrounding himself with the simulated, terrified faces of the refugees. He focused every ounce of his human will on a single, emotionally absolute statement. I choose them. I choose the weak, and I will sacrifice everything you value to protect what you chose to abandon. The impact on Vorak was devastating. His will, forged in the suppression of the silent years, encountered Logan's unflinching embrace of that memory. The cognitive dissonance was catastrophic. Vorak's rigid control demanded he accept the loss as correct. Logan's chaos demanded he accept the emotional horror as fundamentally wrong. Xavanna, watching through the master link, felt the psychic backlash.
She felt Vorak's decades of suppression shatter, and she was overwhelmed by the raw, focused force of Logan's will. It was the total, focused concentration of a human male determined to win his prize. Vorak's body began to tremble. A low, guttural sound escaped his throat, the sound of an utterly repressed emotion finally breaching the surface. Vorak's fleet scattered in the simulation. The final tone sounded. Vorak's neural signature went dark, replaced by amber. Complete, functional psychic overload. He had yielded. He had been defeated by compassion, by shame, and by the sheer, relentless, illogical conviction of a human heart. The observation dome was silent. Jarrell stared, his political maneuver utterly destroyed. Logan's body slumped forward in the chair, utterly exhausted. He was physically depleted, but mentally, he was the victor. The extraction was slow. Logan was virtually unconscious, strapped to a medical gurney. Queen Xavanna descended to the arena floor, her gold and bronze armor gleaming, ignoring the stunned Catharan nobles. Jarrell stepped forward. "Your Majesty, the method was flawed. It was not an act of superior will, but an attack of emotional instability." Xavanna turned, her deep azure eyes flashing with terrifying authority. "The terms were simple, Advisor Jarrell. Beat my strongest warrior, and you earn my hand." Vorak's perfect, rigid logic failed to adapt to the human's chaotic, resilient conviction. Therefore, Vorak's will was insufficient. She walked directly to Logan's gurney. Logan's eyes fluttered open, locking onto hers. Xavanna reached out, placing her bronze hand on his cheek. It was a gesture of unexpected, devastating tenderness, yet carried the full weight of her imperial authority. "I claim my consort," Xavanna announced, her voice ringing with finality. "The alliance is now irrelevant. The future of the hegemony will be forged with a will that is adaptable, chaotic, and relentlessly focused on survival." She leaned down, her cool lips hovering just above his ear. "You showed me the fire of your mind, Logan. You offered me your vulnerability as a weapon, and I tasted the freedom in your chaos." Then, for the benefit of the watching court, she rose. She removed a single symbolic obsidian pin from her ceremonial armor and pressed it into Logan's hand. "He is no longer an attaché. He is my consort, the champion of the will and the first man of the hegemony. Prepare the sanctum of conjunction. The marriage is immediate. The alliance can wait." Logan squeezed the obsidian pin, the smooth, cool stone, a solid confirmation of his impossible victory. His body was wrecked, but his mind was on fire, focused solely on the woman whose bronze exterior had just been breached by the primal, relentless force of his humanity. In the sanctum of conjunction, a vaulted chamber high in the central spire, Logan found Xavanna waiting. She had discarded her armor and wore only a single, dark, seamless wrap. Her pale platinum hair flowed over her shoulders. She stood by a low, wide platform carved from dark stone. "My consort." Xavanna greeted him, her voice low and resonant, stripped of imperial formality. The deep azure of her eyes held a fierce, unrestrained heat. "The alliance was a prison," Xavanna stated, extending a slender hand to his chest. Her bronze touch was possessive. "You shattered the constraints of my own mind by showing me the power of absolute, illogical conviction. I will not trade that freedom for a treaty. I will take the resources by force, and you, Logan, will show me how to adapt the hegemony's focus to that chaos." She drew him forward, pulling his body flush against hers. The contact was a fusion of cool, bronze skin against his own heat. During the synaptic link, Xavanna whispered, her lips brushing his ear, I felt the core of your will. It was not mere victory you desired, human. It was me. It was the truth of you, the woman beneath the logic, the repressed fire. Logan corrected, pulling her close. Then show me the fire again, Xavanna commanded, her teal eyes half-lidded. She reached back and reactivated her neural crown. Logan understood. The physical intimacy would be an extension of their mental link, a single, consuming conjunction. He activated his own crown. The neural link snapped into place. The chaos of his human mind merged with the disciplined structure of hers, creating a powerful, overwhelming unity of sensation. Xavanna's touch became an intense, focused exploration of his physical endurance and mental fortitude. She was analyzing his nonverbal cues, integrating the chaotic feedback loop of human desire into her own being. Your resilience, Xavanna transmitted mentally, her hands trailing lower. It is driven by this desire, this need to claim. The vulnerability makes the passion absolute. Absolute and consuming, Logan transmitted back. He wrapped her in his arms, focusing his will not on winning, but on giving her the experience of uninhibited human connection. She gasped, the mental projection of her reaction a brilliant flare of deep azure light. The moment she realized the physical act was driven by a powerful emotional complexity, the barriers of her Catharan logic dissolved. She pulled him onto the stone platform. The act was a deliberate, powerful fusion of control and surrender, passion and focus. Logan was giving her the chaos and the relentless drive of humanity, and Xavanna was receiving it with the total, focused concentration of a sovereign taking possession of a great, beautiful new weapon. The next morning, Xavanna and Logan met with the High Council. Xavanna sat on the throne, Logan standing beside her, his hand resting lightly on the armrest. She was dressed in dark red silk, her bronze skin glowing with vitality. Jarrell stood, his posture rigid. Your Majesty, the Vydor Concord has issued an ultimatum. Nullify this conjunction or face economic sanction. The Vydor Concord is predictable. They rely on our fear of illogical action. They are wrong. Logan leaned forward slightly. The Vydor Prince thinks in terms of assets and tariffs. We think in terms of adaptation and ingenuity. We will turn their sanctions into a strategic opportunity. Xavanna nodded. The human commonwealth possesses unparalleled expertise in resource optimization under duress. The Logan's people do not fear a supply blockade. They see it as a puzzle to be solved with lateral thinking. My consort, detail your first act as first man. How do we meet Vydor economic warfare? Logan stepped forward. We don't meet their logic with our logic. We meet their logic with human, asymmetrical response. We will target the single most computationally complex sector of their economy, synthetic nutrient production. He detailed his plan, deploying a highly customized, human-designed adaptive chaos virus. The virus would not destroy the Vydor system, but introduce random, irrational variables, emotional bias, sentimental value into the distribution calculus. The system would not fail. It would become functionally illogical. Jarrell looked horrified. You propose an attack based on emotional sabotage? It is an act of HFY, advisor, Logan retorted. The Vydor computational minds will spend weeks trying to locate the logic behind the chaos. Their entire economy will seize, not from destruction, but from confusion. They will beg for order, and we will provide it, on our terms. Xavanna rose. The era of rigid adherence is over. The hegemony is now an empire of adaptable will. The human strategy is authorized. She sealed the decree with a tightening of her bronze hand on Logan's arm. Logan's chaos virus was deployed. and the Vydor distribution system began making decisions based on random color schemes and historical superstitions. The Vydor High Command, unable to comprehend an attack that didn't involve destruction but sheer, unpredictable nonsense, descended into chaos. They requested a ceasefire. Xavanna watched the feeds in the war room. They are paralyzed by the human variable. They cannot fight a threat they cannot logically categorize. Logan, the solution to the chaos, proposed the terms. They would provide the fix only if the Vydor dismantled their resource pipelines and agreed to a new, non-predatory trade tariff. The Hegemony was victorious, but the philosophical war continued with Vorak. Xavanna and Logan visited the medical ward where the First Sword was recovering. "First Sword," Xavanna said, "you failed because your will was too brittle. You were forced to choose between the logic of the state and the trauma of your history. The human used your emotional past against you. The past is irrelevant to efficient function, Your Majesty," Vorak rasped. "No," First Sword Logan countered, stepping closer. "The past is the logic. My human logic, forged by 2,000 years of messy survival, told me to prioritize the impossible, illogical rescue." Logan focused his gaze. "You have the strongest will I have ever encountered, but I have the most flexible will. Integrate the knowledge of your species' pain, the knowledge of Alaris, and you will no longer be predictable. You will be adaptable." Xavanna placed her bronze hand on Vorak's forehead. "The human is correct. Your new service will not be defined by perfect logic, but the application of unpredictable force, guided by Logan's insights. You must learn to fight with chaos." Vorak stared at Logan, seeing not an opponent, but a terrifying new teacher. Xavanna's reign was now defined by the human variable. She integrated emotional metrics into her strategic decisions, a process her council found both terrifying and thrillingly effective. Logan was her essential strategic partner, the unpredictable element ensuring their dominance. One evening, Logan found Xavanna in her private solar lounge, looking out over the crystalline spires of the capital city. She was holding the obsidian pin he had won. "I have officially dissolved the need for the Champion of Will decree. There's no point. No Catharan could ever defeat you, Logan. Your mind operates on too many layers." "It's just the messy way we evolved," Logan said, wrapping his arms around her waist. He pressed his cheek against her neck. Xavanna leaned back into his embrace, her pale platinum hair soft against his skin. "The messy evolution created a superior strategist. Your capacity for self-deprecating humor and reckless sentimentality makes you utterly resilient. You turn fear into fuel, Logan." She turned to face him, her deep azure eyes intense. "The hegemony is yours, human. Your chaotic mind has saved my political future. Now you must secure my emotional future." She reached up, pulling his mouth down to hers. The kiss was an assertion of mutual, consuming obsession. Xavanna pulled back slightly. "You taught Vorak to embrace chaos. Now you must teach me how to completely, utterly surrender to it." She led him to the private chamber. Logan followed, his heart pounding. The disciplined Catharan will, once aimed at galactic conquest, was now aimed at the singular goal of human passion. The chaos was mastered, but not broken. Later, Xavanna traced the lines of his face. "You have given me everything I never knew I lacked. The passion of your mind, the persistence of your will. The hegemony is stronger now, because it is no longer perfect. It is adaptable." Logan smiled, pulling her closer. "We're just getting started, Xavanna. Humanity's greatest strength isn't just surviving. It's thriving in the most beautifully illogical ways possible." He was the champion of the will, and his prize was the chance to teach an empire the true meaning of being alive.